it's still trust. And the chances are, let's say if you're a business owner, still likely that someone that you trusted got you there to begin with, and that you're counting on those people to get you where you need to go next.
Right.
It could be very small ways. How can I log in today? Or business plan, or life event for your family, something like that. But certainly trust in a pure digital sense is all the little things that we show up every day to do in terms of protecting your data. It is a bank, right? First and foremost, in the reliability of those things. You need to be able to show up for your customer when they need it.
Welcome to Next Best Action, the podcast about the people changing banking from the inside. I'm Alex Jimenez with Finalytics.ai, real-time AI personalization built exclusively for credit unions and banks. On this show, we talk with leaders about engagement, growth, innovation, and what it takes to build better banking. Welcome to Next Best Action. My guest today is Scott Hurlbert. Scott is SVP Digital Channel at Provident Bank in New Jersey, right?
That's right, Alex.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Provident Bank.
Yeah. In 2022, M&T acquired People's United, where you were at, and you left there and joined Provident since. But overall, you've been in digital banking for 19 years, which seems crazy, but we didn't call it digital bank 19 years ago.
No.
Digital banking 19 years ago, right?
Yeah, we've been inventing it ever since, I think. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember when I hit digital, we called it alternative channels.
Alternative. Yes. Direct, all kinds of things. Yeah.
I tried to change it to remote, but my boss was like, I don't know what that means.
It's too distant. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about the role of digital in relationship banking and community banking. Whether it's a community bank or a credit union, we all talk about how building relationships and building the sense of community is very important to us. A channel that is very important now, and it's remote, and it's not a branch anymore, right? So if we think about relationship banking, you always traditionally that meant a person that was going to give you advice and help you in your situation. But now that you've spent 19 years building digital experiences at People's and now Provident, how do you define relationship banking in that digital context? And what does it actually mean when there's no branch and no banker in the room?
Well, it's still trust. It's still trust. And the chances are, let's say if you're a business owner, still likely that someone that you trusted got you there to begin with, and that you're counting on those people to get you where you need to go next.
Right.
It could be very small ways. How can I log in today? Or business plan, something significant, or life event, for your family, something like that. But certainly trust in a pure digital sense is all the little things that we show up every day to do in terms of protecting your data. It is a bank, right? First and foremost, in the reliability of those things. And I think that there's a couple of things there where you need to be able to show up for your customer when they need it. Not every day is necessarily a wow day, but I'm thinking at times where we've had customers say, I thank God that you had positive pay service for us.
Right.
Because someone stole, checks out of our mailbox and we would have been out hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And now this digital experience, deepened that kind of relationship. So there's many things like that for sure, but certainly trust, empowering your people to fix it. Everyone has problems. Some people recover well. And that's what people tend to remember.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, digital is primarily a transaction channel. So, you check your balance, you move money, you pay a bill. But how do you deepen that relationship in real practice? Yes, people are going to reach out to you, but they're going to reach out to you in the contact center most likely maybe chat. But how do you present that in the digital channel?
Well, I think you got to keep certain spaces sacred, if you will.
Mhm.
So if you are attempting to do something that is transactional, don't fill it with, distractions, with things that are not relevant or not,
Mhm.
necessary
Right.
for that customer. Your brand is essential, right? So in terms of delivery of that brand promise, for sure. Um, and I think there are things that you can do in your product suite that deepen those relationships. We've done some work to provide more open access through APIs for data,
Mhm.
for example. And upon delivering that, our customers loved that and have brought us more business and deepened those relationships. And so when you design your products, around what the customer needs to do, it engenders, the likelihood that they want to do more business with you, whether that be a, consumer personal accounts or something like that, or on the business side as well. So, I think when you do generally care about what the purpose and being purpose built is, that's really helpful. And you just commit to it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, when you do have those relationships and when you do open technology to what we call open banking, there's always a concern from the bank side that it's you're giving too much information, that you're sharing too much information, that might lead to a customer leaving. And having been in those discussions, that's a difficult discussion to have. So how do you answer those kind of questions?
Are you doing right by this customer and
Mhm.
your relationship with this customer? Is there someone in the room who represents the customer in the conversation? And if the
Right.
answer is no, then you're probably on the wrong track to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
What are you in the business to do? Are you in the business to sell software to customers? Are you in the business of gathering deposits and making loans and
Mhm.
providing services? Like, what are you actually trying to do? And how will that relationship deepen? Taking the long view with a customer
Mhm.
tends to work out in the long run for banks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
most of the time it's pretty clear what the right thing to do for customers is. So
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
you have the right people in the room.
Yeah. I agree. When we talk about relationship in the digital world, and being in analytics, and we're all about personalization, so of course we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
And we hear the JP Morgans and the other large banks say that they're investing heavily in personalization, to serve as the next best action, next best product. How do community institutions actually use data to be able to compete with the JP Morgan chases? I mean, aside of course, of using analytics, but that's besides the point.
Well, I think a couple of things. One, I salute those organizations and the things they've done.
Mhm.
I've known many folks who've worked there, and it's neat to see. I
Mhm.
think many of the things they've done have helped the industry move forward. So that's terrific. And other companies such as Finalytics and others have brought forward interesting solutions as well. And I would just challenge bankers to understand what the word personal means. Um, that some of those large banks have problems to solve because they're so large
Yep.
that you may not have the same problem. So just because something is a little bit more relevant or convenient doesn't necessarily make it personal in an emotional connection sense.
Mhm.
And so some of the largest institutions can't bring to you effectively
Mhm.
one bundle of, personal, commercial, wealth, insurance, whatever, really, and bring it to you in that way. And so don't lose sight of the fact that you have the opportunity to be a lot closer to your customer. So I think that's an important mindset, and then design what you're going to do around your particular capability to bring that forward,
Mhm.
because you may
Yep.
not be solving exactly the same problem as a $2 trillion institution.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. We all complain about our core systems as an example, but it was very interesting going from a very large bank when I was B of A, going to a community bank, because at B of A, we had several core systems. And going to a community bank, we only had one. And to me, that was like amazing,
Yes.
right? And the people of the community bank were like, I don't understand how that's an issue. Why don't you have one system? It's
Right.
like, well, you know, that so
It's
even by
complicated.
just the fact that you have a core system right there, you have an advantage that a B of A or a Wells or someone else may not have.
Absolutely. And it really sets you up then to say, okay, well, so I need to invest though. So
Mhm,
we do know that there's opportunities in this space. And I think anyone would say you have to invest in your data to
mhm,
make any of those things work well. I think the next steps certainly would be the orchestration of that data in that. So, and I think what people tend to talk less about is that you have to have your technologists partner with
mhm.
your product managers or your business teams in ways that they can really communicate and discuss. Because chances are, as a smaller institution, you can't do everything that could be done. And so you really need to pick and choose where that's going to be and what your focus should be. And so I think those types of collaborations
Mhm.
are critical. And I think that, and the talent is very, very difficult to find, right? Because we're invariably talking about AI, and how that will impact this space and how very challenging it is to find that, which is an opportunity because there's a lot of hungry people within your own organization today who probably aren't getting a lot of visibility, who
Mhm.
are ready to put in the time, the energy, and to learn this and build this as we go. And that's kind of how we started most of our careers, is that these things don't exist.
Yeah.
Let's go build it.
Mhm.
And I would say for community institutions who have to partner in many ways with other companies, is to not just take the out of the box and send it to your customers, but to really have a strategy about how you're going to make it your own,
Yep.
how you're going to continue to take care of it. And that requires people to mind the store. So I think that's a very important recognition. It's not a check the box, bought the product, plugged it in.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you do that when generally community banks and credit unions have to rely on vendors for that digital experience, and you don't necessarily have the ability to change the journeys that are presented to you, whether it's account opening or digital banking? How do you bake the brand promise, the trust, into a platform that may not be extensible enough to change?
Well, you can deliver it really well, right? So it certainly depends on the size of your institution. I think the bar is a little bit lower than people think in terms of
Yep.
how you can partner
Yep.
with the right people to shape those things. I think at Provident we do that, and
Mhm.
I think we do that really well. Um, but let's just, even if you went even very far down market in terms of how are you engaging all of the people who engage with your customers
Right.
in such a way that they understand how to use this, understand the value proposition for it. So over
Mhm.
index on bringing to market to your own employees and then to your customers.
Yep.
So they see it
Yep.
in this way. I think and given the closeness of that connection, I think there's a real opportunity to do that in those institutions.
One of the challenges that I had when I headed digital was the fact that a lot of our customers, sorry, a lot of our employees, particularly those that were talking to our customers, so people at the branch and lesser people at the call center, didn't bank with us, and therefore they never actually used the technology. So when people asked them questions, they were not they might have gone through the training. They may have had access to a knowledge base or something like that that talked about what the capabilities are, but they actually never use the technology. How do you entice your employees to be aware of all the things that you offer, and even some of the things that they may not, first person be able to deal with, say the business experience?
I've done a number of things over the years. I've stood up engagement platforms for employees so they
Mhm.
can do little bite-sized learning,
Yep.
running games and competition to make sure people are kind of doing that. Enabling assisted serve. So if you have someone in front of you, you can both look at the same
Mhm.
demo or sort of value
Right.
proposition and do that track and incent. Like if you want people to do things, incent their behavior around it. I think that's a critical thing, and get out there on the road and be enthusiastic about
Mhm.
it. And I think it is human nature that if you're sort of in the back doing something, that the gap between what you think makes sense and what everyone else out in the field might be thinking is, unless you are very extremely proactive and intentional, is gigantic.
Mhm. Right.
Oh my God. You
Yeah.
said, how can anyone think that this would be this way? And the thing is, it's always that way that people
Mhm.
think things that they shouldn't think, or how can they believe that? Well, because you didn't tell them,
Mhm.
because you didn't get out there and break down the barriers to do it. So you really do have to find ways to break those barriers down, both in terms of leadership, but in opportunity and incentives.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we have not done well in the industry is the people that manage digital in a lot of organizations are not customer focused. They're not, they don't feel that they're front office, right? They're back office, and therefore they manage it from that back office standpoint. So, but the way I'm receiving what you're saying is you need to be out there. You need to be the person that is always talking about the customer and what we're offering.
Absolutely. And so at Provident, we have CX as a strong, not just statement,
Mhm.
but it's a team. I mean, there are people who do this,
Yeah.
right? So we commit people and resources to the experience. And like I said earlier, if you're not bringing those folks to the table when you're designing or you're building or you're
Mhm.
rolling out, then you're not doing your job. I
Yep.
mean, you absolutely have to do that in whatever way it makes sense for your company.
Yeah. I'm going to shift a subject here for a bit. You've gone through a couple of mergers in the past few years. The M&T acquisition of Peoples, Lakeland being acquired by Provident or merged with Provident. How do you maintain and how do you manage the culture change when organizations are put together, and particularly when it comes to digital teams and the digital experience?
Sure. Well, I think I had about 12 other ones before that as
Yeah,
well.
oh, of course.
It's been constant. If you don't take care of your people, they won't take care of your customers. And that is it goes to 11, right? It's cranked up
Yep.
in a merger and acquisition space.
Mhm.
It counts for people who are retained. It counts for people who are not retained. So the very first thing you have to do is address the people aspect in the organization. So that's a very, very critical thing. Secondly, the relationships, the critical business relationships that are out there, they have to be identified. Everyone who is and identify ownership and make
Mhm.
sure that those owners have an actual playbook
Mhm.
by which they will engage people ahead of legal communication, well, not legal notice, but the booklets you get about system conversions.
Yep.
You really make sure that they're framing this correctly, that they have the lines of communication, that those things are established.
Mhm.
Then, right, if you have employees who care, and I'll get to that in another segment, to
Mhm.
your processes and technology
Mhm.
components, I would advise people to not be the first people to do anything in a conversion or merger acquisition space. There's enough tried and true things that this can be a little bumpy, but you're going to get
Mhm.
through it. That is something to make sure that you're doing from a process and technology point of view. It's not the time to move from a sort of traditional bank to real time processing. Like
Right.
um, so. And what I'll say about employees is whether you're the acquired employee manager or the buyer, is talk to them and understand what their goals are as we're going forward. There are people who want to find a role in a new company. There are people who don't,
Mhm.
and really find out what's important and make that your almost number one thing that you're going to do for this period of time. How are you enabling these folks? Invest in development for people without a lot of concern about whether or not they're likely to stay or leave. Invest.
Mhm.
They will treat people right. And later, you'll find that those are the people that come calling when you've got something else going on in your
Yep.
organization. Treat people right. And they remember that for sure. And I've seen it. And, they do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love your comment about don't introduce something new. Once we converted to a new digital banking platform, and we took the opportunity to introduce new security measures. That did not go well.
Hard enough as it is.
Yes.
Just say the things.
So much confusion. That didn't work.
Yep.
A few years ago, we all talked about omni-channel, right? It was like, all right, we're no longer talking about channels. We're all in a omni-channel, but we still are falling into, okay, this is branch and this is the call center and this is digital and this is cards and whatever. Uh, I, but customers don't think like that, right? The customer call a call center, they expect that whatever they just did in digital is going to be something they have access to. If they walk into a branch, that they understand that something happened yesterday that uh, might have impacted through the digital channel, or you started an application through there. So, how do we get bankers to think about that? What do we need to build, and what infrastructure do we need to put in place to actually become truly that omni-channel experience that we keep talking about? And now it's been several years.
Well, and what's the goal of it?
Mm-hmm.
It can't be just I started it online and I finished it in a branch. That's just not
Right. Yeah.
really, that's not enough.
Right.
So the way I'm handling it is leveraging the same technology
Mhm.
in both places, which gives you an efficiency,
Yep.
right? Which you can then use to improve the experience. So if it takes an hour or something to
Mhm.
open an account in a branch, you invest in then an omni-channel platform that lets you cut that down to 5-10 minutes,
Mhm.
for example. Then you engage your retail or your CX or your teams on what to do with the opportunity in the other 40 minutes that exists between the person and the customer.
Mhm.
And what you should do is talk about what they need, what's the relationship and the connection and all of those things. And how you can then say, great, sounds like you're interested in getting online with us. So let me help you do that.
Mhm.
So, that's what you need to be able to do is in this sort of inflection moment with a customer, get rid of all the friction that you can
Mhm.
so that you can enable them to use the other channels
Right.
that they might want. Or maybe there's additional products that they need that you can use technology to go do. And I
Mhm.
think that's very valuable and very practical
Yep.
and generally a good use case for doing those things. But it takes time, effort, and money to do it. So you have to sometimes pick omni-channel solutions to lower those costs, invest in all of that needs to
Yep.
support that.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I remember rolling out an account opening digital, which at that point was super fast, 20 minutes to open a checking account. Chime does that in 3 minutes now. But I tried to then deploy it at the contact center. Our compliance people did not like it because it was built for digital.
Mhm.
And so there were they felt a lot of steps were really not meeting compliance. And therefore I had to pull it out from the contact center. So, ideally I would have wanted to have the same process throughout, both at the branch contact center and digital, but it was just not built that way. And it took a few years before we got there. But eventually we did.
No, it's true. And contact center is very unique. It's
Yeah.
challenging to certain transactions to do in a contact center. Particularly, I mean, contact center managers know all the debates about whether you should change a person's address or phone number when they call, and some of these things which you think would be easy, but you had better be sure that you know what you're doing before you execute.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let alone account opening. So those can be challenging and tricky.
Yeah. So 19 years in digital banking at community institutions. So what do you think the industry has made progress on delivering relationship banking digitally, and where do we still need to close the gap as an industry?
Well, I think significantly less progress in the financial industry than in all the other things that we're seeing.
Yep.
And I think that one thing in the bank's favor is that most people that you talk to, when you say, hey, all these digital experiences are much better, how do you feel? And most people say, I don't feel that. I don't really feel that great.
Yeah.
I really feel disconnected from folks. Which is why I love a bank like Provident, because we're bringing you all the channels at the right times and right places.
Right.
So I think it's making sure that your people are connected to the services that you're delivering. And yes, I do think that this sort of two-dimensional view that banks have consistently delivered in terms of like, here's a bunch of information and some controls, you fly the plane, you figure out how to do it, is transforming. And it is turning into something where we can anticipate your needs better. We can present to you sort of this recommendation, click, move, go through the process. I see that happening at various levels of large banks and some things that we're doing and other banks as well. So I think you'll see that in those spaces as well. And again, based on your business model, your monoline card and funding with money market accounts, or are you trying to do full service banking? Are you trying to do something else? You have to kind of custom fit those things. So not a ton of progress there, and across the industry. And I think one of the things that we have been focused on a great deal, and rightly so, is fraud prevention in this space, and trying to educate customers about how to protect themselves and all the things behind the scenes that customers might not see that had happened is very, very significant and very large in terms of new capability that's sort of under the in the background there. Well, more to be done for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's switch it up a little bit. So let's do a lightning round. I'm going to ask you questions and just answer with whatever comes first. So coffee or tea?
Tea.
Ah, okay. What's the first thing you do when you wake up each morning?
Check my email.
All right. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd gotten earlier in your career?
Oh, wow. Okay. Look for the biggest, ugliest problems that are out there, and be relatively unconstrained in your thinking in terms of trying to go get them.
Yeah, great.
So go get stuff done.
Yeah. What's your number one leadership mantra?
Seek first to understand, and then to be understood.
What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from failure?
To reflect on it. I would say to not protect yourself from the personal pain and anguish that comes from it, or to sort of justify that away. That is preventing you from growing. So do whatever grieving you need to do, learn from it, and then move on, as opposed to sort of deflecting. There's always something to learn.
If you weren't in banking, where would you be?
If I wasn't in banking, I would be a guitarist in a very popular rock band, I'm sure.
I love that. That's fantastic. All right. So one last question, not part of the lightning round. So what is the one step forward you would challenge every banking leader listening to take after this episode?
Well, to ask your teams if they actually understand what it is that is most critical for their organization's strategy to succeed. whether that is you're trying to grow deposits, whether it's a certain business line, what as a team, broad team, are we actually trying to accomplish? And how is it that the decisions that you're making in any particular day help you actually get there?
That's great. Great advice. Thank you, Scott, for joining us. I reserve the right to invite you another time to continue the discussion. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Alex.
Thanks for listening to Next Best Action. I'm Alex Jimenez. If this conversation gave you a new idea or a better question to ask, share the show with someone in banking who should hear it too. Be sure to follow along for more candid conversations on the future of banking.